Hi, welcome to this physics tutorial on describing motion. Today we're going to solve the problem shown. It says a person runs at an average speed of 7 miles per hour for the first hour, then stops for a half-hour break. He then walks 8 miles back to his house in 2.5 hours. What is his average speed in both miles per hour and meters per second? So we need to break this into the 3 different chunks of time. The first is when he's actually running at 7 miles per hour. The second chunk is when he stops for his half-hour break. And the third chunk is when he's walking back to his house. So during that first chunk, I'm just going to label this as 1, he has an average speed of 7 miles per hour. And we denote average speed as an S with a bar over top of it. And I'm going to write out miles per hour so we can be really clear about our units. And then our time is 1 hour because it says in the first hour. Now, something that will be very helpful is to know the equation for average speed, and that is equal to distance over time. So let's go ahead and for this first chunk, let's see if we can solve for the distance. So for instance, if I have the average speed, which is equal to distance over time, I know that in order to get distance by itself, I need to multiply both sides by t, since t is on the bottom. And that will then give me a distance of average speed times time. So when I plug this in, I will have 7 miles per hour times the 1 hour time. And when I do that, the hours here cancel. So I have a distance of 7 miles. And that makes sense, that if he's running at 7 miles per hour for a full hour, that he travels 7 miles. All right, so now for chunk number 2, this is when he stops for his half-hour break. So his average speed is 0 because he's not traveling at all. And so he's stopped, right? He doesn't have a speed. The time then is 0.5 hours. And then his distance, he doesn't travel anywhere during that time. So that will be 0 miles. And then finally, during the third chunk when he's walking, we need to figure out what is going on during that third time. Well, we know for sure that he travels 8 miles. So that's his distance. And that for time, that's the 2.5 hours. And we could figure out the average speed in just this section, but we don't actually need it. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. So now total, this is where we need to find and answer the question when it says average speed in both miles per hour and meters per second. Let's first do it in miles per hour, since those are the units we're already working with. So we need to figure out the total distance. So the total distance covered was 7 miles from the first chunk, the 0 miles from the second chunk, and then the 8 miles from the third chunk. And that gives us a total of 15 miles. And then the total time. Well, the time from the first is 1 hour. We have 0.5 hours from when he stopped, and then we have 2.5 hours from when he was walking back to his house. And that gives us a total time of 4 hours. And then finally, we can figure out the average speed during the entire time that he was out running, resting, and walking. And we just take our distance over time, so our 15 miles divided by our 4 hours. And that gives us an average speed of 3.75 miles per hour. And sometimes you'll see people write this as 3.75 mph, which stands for miles per hour. So that is our answer in miles per hour, which answers the first part of the question. Now we want to convert that to meters per second. So we just do a simple unit conversion. So how we do that is we start with our 3.75 miles per hour, and then we multiply by a unit conversion. Now I'm going to first convert the miles into meters. So I put miles on the bottom because I need those to cancel out. And I do meters on top. And then I look up the unit conversion. I know that in 1 mile, there's 1,609 meters. And then I convert from hours into minutes because I know that I need to get to eventually to seconds. The hours here, I have 1 on top and 1 on bottom, so those cancel. And that in 1 hour, there are 60 minutes. And then finally, I convert from minutes into seconds, because if I have minutes on top and minutes on bottom, those will cancel. And again, if I have 1 minute, that's equivalent to 60 seconds. So what I do is I take my 3.75, I multiply by everything that's on top, and I divide by everything that's on the bottom. And that gives me an average speed of 1.68 meters per second. Or we can just simply write m/s. So there we have it. We figured out the average speed in both miles per hour and meters per second. So remember these principles when you have any of these average speed problems. See if you can find one similar to this to practice these on your own. Good luck!